Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all enjoying the conference. My name's Alan Wareham, and welcome to session 4A. What is new with the Institute on Movement Studies for individuals who are visually impaired or deafblind? It's my pleasure to introduce our presenter. Lauren Lieberman is a distinguished service professor in the kinesiology department at the State University of New York at Brockport in adapted physical education. She started her career teaching at the Perkins School for the Blind in the Deafblind program. She is coordinator of the Institute of Movement Studies for individuals with visual impairments or deafblindness, IMSVI. She is the founder and director of Camp Abilities, an educational sports camp for children with visual impairments. Camp Abilities has been replicated in 20 states and 8 countries. She has published over 193 peer-reviewed articles and 21 books. She has delivered keynote presentations and was an invited guest speaker all over the U.S. and in over 15 countries. She won an Access Award from AFB for starting Camp Abilities and helping to start camps all over the world. In 2017, she won a Points of Light Award for her work with Camp Abilities from the U.S. government. Camp Abilities has been featured on CNN, HBO Real Sports, and on NBC. In the fall of 2019, she was awarded a global Fulbright scholarship to promote Camp Abilities worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Lauren Lieberman.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the Institute on Movement Studies for individuals with visual impairment or deafblindness. Alan gave a great introduction, and I just appreciate everybody for coming. Our institute is myself, my colleague Pam Beach, and Melanie Perot, also from SUNY Brockport, and we do research in four areas. It's education, research, programming, and leadership. And so last week, was anybody here at the Charge Syndrome Conference last week? Give a clap if anybody was there last week. So our institute, we took some students there last week, so that was leadership. You know, having our students at the conference was leadership, and then we did a presentation, so that was education. We did 3 research studies with kids with Charge while we were there. So that was research. So I'm telling the story about at the Charge conference when we were in the pool with kids with Charge, and all the families were in there with their kids. And I was in there with my students, and we were going around trying to help the families teach their kids how to swim. And some of the kids had on so many flotation devices, you know, the arm things, you know, the belt things. And I went over and I'm like, hey, does he know how to swim? You know, Connor, hey, show me how you swim. They're like, oh no, he doesn't swim. He just likes to float. I'm like, all right, well, he's 9 years old and he looks like he's pretty comfortable. No, he just wants to float. And so I said, can I try it? Can I have him? And so we proceeded to go around and teach all these kids who are not swimmers, not only to swim, but to take off their flotation devices and be independent swimmers. And their parents just had these really low expectations of them because they looked comfortable. But how many parents of kids who are able-bodied want to push their kids and have them reach their potential? And this is what we do with our institute, is we take kids with visual impairments, kids who are deafblind, kids with multiple disabilities, and we push them and show not only the kids, but their parents and their teachers and the community what they can do related to physical activity and sports. And so our institute has already done research, which I'm not going to talk about now, but I'm just going to share on balance, on motor skills, including object control and locomotor motor skills, and physical education for people who are deafblind. We've also extended it to recreation for adults who are deafblind. So I'm going to share some of our current research and then a lot of resources with you. And at the end, if you stay till the end, I actually have some free books. I have a lot of free books online, but I also have some to give away. So I'm just going to share a couple of studies that we just did related to teachers and parents of kids with moderate and severe disabilities. So we had a grant from the Lavelle Fund for the Blind, which is from New York City. You might have heard Lavelle School for the Blind, Lavelle Fund for the Blind. They give us a lot of research. And so in this one with parents, we had 70 parents and 4 guardians. And then the survey respondents average, they were about 37 years old. We had 25 male and 49 female. And the mean age of the kids that they had were 10 years old. And then some attended urban, suburban, and rural schools. We validated the questionnaire for the parents related to physical activity in the school and in the community. Most children participated in adapted physical education, while some didn't have any physical education. Made us very sad. Many parents were satisfied, which made us really happy. Of course, these were parents that also responded to the survey. And most parents are actively involved with their child at home and in the community. But the parents did prefer more training, and that's where a lot of our resources come in. And so they wanted training on instructional techniques, positioning, these are kids with multiple disabilities, modifications, motivation, how to use equipment, assessment, IEPs, and aquatics. And again, this is the research that drove our current grant that we have. So the parents wanted a training manual, which I'll get to, instructional videos, tip sheets, which we created related to Charge syndrome, children with visual impairments with Marfan syndrome, CVI, Down syndrome with visual impairment, cerebral palsy, and autism. They wanted more conferences, and they wanted more training videos. And then we also did the same approach for teachers who had kids with visual impairments and additional disabilities. So again, we validated the questionnaire. We had 201 adapted PE, physical education, TVI, O&M, audiologists, teachers of the deaf, special ed, and professors that filled out the questionnaire. The results shared that they wanted modifications that are working and illuminated areas of weakness related to modifications. And the trainings they wanted to do were conferences, videos, and tip sheets. Okay? And so it was really cool because we saw so many different disabilities in this research study. The number 1 was kids with visual impairments and autism. And the number 2 was kids with cerebral palsy and autism, physical disabilities, intellectual, kids who are deafblind, Down syndrome, Charge syndrome, and so on. And so from these 2 studies, we did get a big grant from the Lavelle Fund for the Blind, which is good news, but we also are looking at what types of modifications would help kids with visual impairments and additional disabilities like Charge syndrome, what would help them be successful. Access to modified equipment was primary concern. 71% of the participants reported access, while 34% and more didn't have access. So this is just a picture of the American Printing House for the Blind, their beeping ball. In the US, it's not that hard to get modified equipment because we have APH, we have quota funds with the American Printing House for the Blind. And so for modifications, people checked off that they wanted equipment modifications, different size and weight of different equipment, auditory equipment, tactile cues, visual cues, assistive equipment, assistive technology, and access to games and sports. So here's a picture of one of our coaches, and the child is feeling the process of batting with the teacher. Some of the barriers to modifications, this didn't surprise any of us. I don't think this will surprise you either. Lack of money, lack of knowledge, storage. That's one of our biggest problems is where do you put it? You get this equipment and then where do you put it? Time, equipment belonging to other departments and having to borrow equipment, a distraction to other students, poor planning for instruction, which unfortunately happens. You get these teachers that are well-meaning and they have this great unit of volleyball, but then they think, oh, I never thought about how is he going to do that? And then the general physical education teachers losing the equipment. And I've gone into someone's office, like, I really would love to get one of those walking, running guide wire kits. And so I'm like, isn't that the kit hanging on your wall over there, they don't know sometimes that somebody ordered that equipment and it's in a specialized closet in a PT office, and they don't know that it's there. So some barriers to modifications. Some solutions to modifications. Again, they want training on the use and function of modified equipment. Sometimes it's not enough to get the equipment, because if you don't know how to use it, for example, if I give you a guide wire, are you going to know how to use it safely? You have to have knots at the end to warn the runner when the end is coming. And are you going to be able to feel comfortable using that equipment? Direct access to the equipment by teachers. And how many of you out there, can you clap twice if you're itinerant? Do you go from school to school, or you just work at one school? Itinerant? I see some people are itinerant, right? So do you have a key to the equipment closet? Do you know where it is? You know, so you might have the equipment, but if you can't get it, then it's not going to be helpful. And this was really illuminated well in our study. Is the equipment in good working order? Does the beeping ball beep? Is the main question. And then better scheduling for shared equipment between departments. And oftentimes a person might have a class at the same time, and they have to fight over equipment if they don't have enough equipment. And this picture is just some of our kids doing some gymnastics at our program. And then some of the training needs that the kids need. So again, this picture is of an aquatics conference that we had for parents, and one of the kids that came to our aquatics conference. When we asked them if their colleagues on the multidisciplinary team needed training, 85% reported that their colleagues needed training. How many of you do training whether you're working with adults or kids, related to physical activity? If you clap twice above your head, I can see how many. Clap twice above your head. You do training related to physical activity. Okay, I had 4 people. That's great. And so how many people would like more training on physical activity? Clap twice above your head. Awesome, good. You're in the right place then. And then most participants utilize their para-educators in their physical education classes. Now, in the US, we call the teacher assistants or teacher aides para-educators. How many of you in your country where you work, or we might also call them intervenors or SSPs? Clap twice above your head if you have those assistants in your country. Okay, it looks like about half the people here have those paraeducators or SSPs, but you have them. Are they trained? Can you clap twice above your head? Do they know how to work with kids or people with deafblindness? Clap twice. All right, maybe half of those people clap their hands. Now, my question is, are they also trained for physical activity? Clap twice above your head if they're trained for both. All right, I love this group to my right here. You guys are trained, you do the right training. But the problem that we were seeing is that a child might have a support person or a paraeducator, but they weren't trained for physical activity or physical education. And that itself can often marginalize the child and have them sit on the sideline. And so the types of trainings that people wanted: instructional techniques, obviously modifications, how do we motivate kids, developing appropriate motor patterns, proper use of equipment, positioning, and assessment. I wasn't too surprised about all of these. So there's a picture of one of our coaches and one of the kids in the pool with their arms in the air. So I'm going to share some resources as a result of the visual impairment and additional disabilities research. So this research that we did illuminated a huge need. So we already had a lot of resources, and we created more resources related to our study. But I just want to ask you before I share this, because it's going to kind of share the direction I'm going to go. How many of you work with adults primarily? Clap above your head if you would. Okay, so probably about half of you. How many of you work with kids primarily? Clap twice. Okay. How many of you have kids who have multiple disabilities? Clap twice above your head. I would say 80% of us have kids with multiple disabilities. How many of you have kids who have mild disabilities? Clap twice. All right. And how many of you are in the schools? Clap twice above your head. All right, about half of you are in the schools. Good. So this is good to help me understand. So the first thing we did was we made the tip sheets, because that's what people wanted. Okay, so again, we have tip sheets, and all of these are related to a visual impairment because most of our kids are right? So we have a tip sheet for visual impairment and autism, and this all relates to physical activity and physical education. So it's on our website, and we're going to show you, Tamara is going to show us in a minute how to get to that website and share some of these resources. And so this is a resource on autism and visual impairment, cerebral palsy and visual impairment. And again, these are a free download. Charge syndrome, tip sheet, and the teachers that made the charge syndrome were from, and the CVI tip sheets were from Perkins. Cortical visual impairment tip sheet, Down syndrome, and Marfan syndrome. And we also just finished 3 tip sheets related to aquatics, because that was what our focus was on this past year. And it's on transfers, flotation devices, and then the other one's on how to teach pre-swim skills, things like putting your face in the water, blowing bubbles. And I wish I had had these for those parents last week, because you know the kids that they say are not swimmers, they're swimmers. They were amazing. And so you can find those again on the website is campabilities.org, and then you can go under Lavelle resources for these specific ones. But what we're going to show you also is just instructional modifications. We have tons of videos, books, and tip sheets, and lots of other resources. So this is an example of one of the tip sheets. It talks about the etiology of that specific disability, the general characteristics of what you might see with a child with a visual impairment and that disability. For example, Marfan syndrome is pretty unique. They typically have a visual impairment and additional disabilities. So that's important to see. And then information specifically related to visual impairment, and then there's a whole list of modifications and resources on each tip sheet. And so again, please share those tip sheets. You can download them, you can give them away. We just want people to use those if you would. Now, I want to show you a few minutes of these few videos. And the first one I'm going to show you, so if you go to the Campabilities website, and Tamara's going to go there now, and she's going to show you how to go to instructional materials. And then you'll see all these videos of different sports that you can play. These are all visual impairment and deafblindness videos, the one on balance. And she's going to click on this one that says Expect Motor Excellence. Now this is all kids with charge syndrome. Expect motor excellence.
My name is
Kids with charge syndrome. All the kids have charge syndrome. Running, galloping. So we use the test of gross motor development. So if you're wondering where those skills came from, it came from the test of gross motor development 3, and I can tell you more about that. So now we're going to show you also how to use, it's going to be the one foundational skills, the one right above this one, that one. Yes, so this one's called foundational skills. And again, these are looking at foundational gross motor skills for kids with multiple disabilities.
My name is Dr.
Welcome. This video demonstrates how to teach children with visual impairments and additional disabilities about physical activity. We hope you find the strategies and suggested equipment useful. Our goal is to help parents, teachers, paraeducators, and specialists help children reach their full potential in physical activity, in sports, and in life. General teaching strategies. Children with visual impairments and additional disabilities have a range of vision, independence, and mobility skills. It is important not to help too much, but instead to provide enough support to enable them to execute
That's
a skill.
called a soccer trainer, so they can kick the ball and it comes right back.
Tactile modeling. Tactile modeling is when a child touches the instructor or peer to feel the execution of a skill. Then they know what to expect. The instructor uses consistent verbal, sign, or tactile cues and feedback. Physical guidance. Physical guidance is when the instructor helps the child execute a skill using partial or total physical assistance. The instructor uses consistent verbal, sign, or tactile cues and feedback. Co-active movement. Co-active movement is when the instructor moves with the child through a skill, so the child can feel the motion and tempo of the skill through the instructor's body. Physical assistance. Many children will need partial or total physical assistance to execute a skill. This is an excellent method of teaching children to learn a novel skill or activity. In this section, we will review locomotor skills. Running. One option for running and walking is to use a guide wire with a carabiner and looped rope. A second option is a tether, which is a short rope held by a guide and the runner. This option works well for running, walking, and wheeling in a chair. Option 3 is a human guide leading a student who holds the guide's elbow. Option 4 is circular running, which one does in a field or grassy area using a stake and a long rope. A treadmill can also be used to walk or run. Hopping on one leg, galloping, and skipping. Students can hop, gallop, or skip using similar techniques as running, utilizing a guide wire, a tether, a human guide, or circular running. They can also execute these activities in other ways. They can move next to a wall for security or touch the wall for physical support. They can hold onto another person or a bar for balance assistance. They can even use a pool for these locomotor skills. Sliding.
So you get the idea from this video. It just goes through all the locomotor activities and then a lot of the object control activities, just showing you a variety of positioning, equipment, tactile support to help any person learn how to do those foundational skills. So now we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to the aquatics video in the blue one right there. Yeah. So this one right here is called the Adapted Aquatics video, and we'll scroll through the intro.
Welcome to the Lavelle Fun for the Blind Adapted Aquatics video. The purpose of this video is that you will see the potential of every child in the aquatic setting.
keep going past the talking. I just want to show
Importance
some
of
of the
aquatics for
strategies.
children with visual
Going through
impairments
keep going.
from these
Yes.
types of social outings.
There you go. That's good.
Having water competence and confidence expands one's social opportunities and can add to feelings of self-esteem, independence, self-efficacy, and improve one's self-perception of a high quality of life. Safety. Being water competent can save your life. Water competency includes the ability to keep your head above water and float.
So Marshall is 15 years old. He has trisomy 18, a genetic PRRT2 gene defect, cerebral palsy, and epilepsy, as well as cortical visual impairment, and he's hearing impaired. In the water, he is actually able to hold on to like a rope and stand unassisted, where on land he really can't do that. And it's also fun. He gets to kick in the water, he gets to splash in the water, things that you can't do when you're on land. When he is in the pool with peers of his same age and getting to participate in the same activities, he has a huge smile on his face.
Aquatic opportunities for people with disabilities not only impact their physical life, but impacts their social life. Going to the pool with family and friends, going to the beach, being at a picnic and being able to use the lake safely and know where they are in terms of can they swim a little bit? Do they need a little bit of support? How would they get out if they were in trouble? All of those things are critical to being able to participate in the social parts of aquatics.
I swim with my brother daily and play the ball, blow bubbles in the water, eat in the pool.
We're not trying to change the child, we're not trying to change the person, we're just changing the way we're teaching so that they can understand it best.
Importance of the pre-aquatics interview and land observation and assessment.
Okay, so this is our aquatics video. As you can see, there's a lot more. We specifically break down everything from floating to kicking to breathing, swim skills. So this one, I just want to show you underneath this is a whole series of outdoor adventure videos for kids with visual impairments and additional disabilities. And so you can actually pick any of these. There's everything from fishing, hiking, bike riding, rock climbing. And so I don't want to show any of those, but I just wanted to show you that it's there. And each one of those delves into how to modify that particular activity. So if you want to go back to instructional materials and then scroll down. So I just want to show you where, if you scroll down further, and then there's under books, if you see every single one of these books is a free download, the whole book. So there's Going Places, which is a transition guide for kids with visual impairments or deafblindness. Games for people with sensory impairments is a whole book for physical education teachers and parents. After school sports, it really tells you how to modify everything from football to basketball, soccer, volleyball, swimming. There's the gross motor development curriculum, which is a whole gross motor development curriculum that goes through all those locomotor and object control sports that I just showed you, the skills that we just showed you, but it breaks them down specifically. We also have a blind soccer manual. We have an entire playbook on self-advocacy for kids who are visually impaired or deafblind. It's called the Self-Advocacy Playbook because we think of self-advocacy as its own sport. And then there's another book called Everybody Plays, which is about how kids with visual impairment or deafblindness play sports. And it goes through lots of different sports very specifically from the kid's perspective. And then again, we have all these tip sheets and lots of different tip sheets that we have on here. And then if we scroll down a little more, we have more resources. We have PowerPoints for the parents and teachers. And then we have assessments and checklists that we validated. And so there's just a lot of resources on here. And then there's more under the Lavelle resources link. So thank you, Tamara. I just wanted to share that because I want to share it with you so you can share it with other people. Okay? And then we can go back to our slides. Thank you, Tamara. And so some of the current research that we're doing now, we validated a barriers questionnaire, and I'm proud to say we just published the one in Australia. We did this survey with kids from all over Australia looking at the barriers to physical activity for kids with visual impairment, and that just came out if anybody's interested. We just finished collecting data on, we have 66 kids from around the US with visual impairment and deafblindness and their barriers to physical activity. I know in Hungary they just finished using the same validated barriers questionnaire. And at the Charge Syndrome Conference, I just collected questionnaires from parents with their kids. They filled out this validated questionnaire. If anybody here works with kids with Charge between 10 and 18, I need you to help me with to get more questionnaires to kids with Charge between 10 and 18. So please let me know. Okay. We have a study called Environmental Affordances. The purpose of this study is to examine the home and parental affordances in children with Charge, to examine the home and community environment, the parental motor competence, the parental teaching competence in kids with and without Charge, and to examine the associations between home and the community environment with parental motor and teaching competence. So if anybody's interested, we're looking for kids with Charge, with and without Charge syndrome, 3 to 12 years old. If you want to download that QR code, share it with some of the parents or families that you work with, if they have Charge syndrome. If you're too far away, I see some people holding up your phone. This PowerPoint is also in the handout section of this session. Did everybody get that? Okay. And then we're also looking at this home intervention for kids with Charge. We tested 30 kids last week, which I'm really excited about, 30 kids with Charge, and we're putting one of the groups of kids in the intervention group and one of them in the control group. And the parents are going to do a 6 weeks intervention on motor skills with the kids at home. We gave them equipment, we gave them a curriculum, and they're going to write down what they did. We're also giving them money to do it. And then the control group just waits 6 weeks, and then they also get to implement their intervention at home. In our feasibility study of this particular training, every kid improved on the specific motor skills that the parents worked on. So we're excited about this intervention study. And I could go on and on about some of the current studies. We also do study with kids with just visual impairment as well, so if anybody's interested in that, let us know. We do a lot, we're doing some self-advocacy research with kids with visual impairments. But I just want to share with you some resources. So this is that gross motor development curriculum book I was telling you about, a free download on the Campabilities website under instructional materials. Again, this was done with the American Printing House for the Blind, but they've made all the materials free downloads at this point. So it's really nice that we have that opportunity. Unfortunately, this one's not a free download right now, but maybe they will eventually. But this one's called Physical Education and Sports for People with Visual Impairments and Deafblindness. Foundations of Instruction. This kind of marries the field of physical education, physical activity, and visual impairment or deafblindness, because those fields people always see as two separate things. And so we had to find some resource, and this is available through the American Printing House for the Blind, and it's in their publications section. So I also work with a publishing company called Human Kinetics, and this book is called Physical Education for Children with Moderate to Severe Disabilities. Again, specifically kids with Charge syndrome in here, kids with multiple disabilities, and it's available through Human Kinetics. Now, Katrina handed out, there should be a flyer on your table with the Human Kinetics. By the way, they gave us a 30% discount on every book, not just the books I'm telling you about. But if you wanted to get this book, if you don't win it today, because I'm going to give this one away. If you don't win it today, you can order books through there. Put in that code. Is it APE 2023? And then you'll get a 30% discount. So bring that back to your agency or your school, because Human Kinetics does a great job, and they gave me some books to give away. So, all right, first person, if anybody's listening. Does anybody work at a place where they have
a class of kids with multiple disabilities in a physical education class, in a self-contained class with kids with physical disabilities. Anybody at a school? You work at a school? How about do you work in an agency with kids that have multiple disabilities that do some physical activities? Raise your hand. Tell me your name. I saw you earlier. Patrick Pink, right? PP. Come on up, Patrick. You get this book. All right, I'm going to put this right here. Thank you, Patrick. All right, who's listening? This next book, actually, no. We go back. Thank you, Patrick. All right, does anybody work in a school? This one's called Strategies for Inclusion. This is also with Human Kinetics. Does anybody work in a school that has kids in an inclusive setting? Raise your hand. First one to raise your hand. Who's that? What's your name? Annie? Come on up, Annie. Annie, this is called Strategies for Inclusion. It's the 3rd edition. This has everything about training paraeducators, assessment, individual education plans. It is a little bit US-centric in the laws chapter, but all the other ones I think could pertain to any country. So, is it Annie? Congratulations, Annie. From Canada, awesome. Okay, you have similar laws to us. And then, anybody else work in a school in a physical education setting? This is called Universal Design for Learning in Physical Education. Universal Design for Learning. Anybody work in like a school where they have general physical education with kids with disabilities? All right, tell me your name. Anne? Come on up, Anne. All right, she gets the Universal Design book. But again, all these books are with Human Kinetics, and I encourage you to take a look at some of those books, and not just the ones on the flyer, but if you want any other books with Human Kinetics, just use that code. Congratulations. Oh, awesome. And I'll sign those later if you want me to sign those later. Okay, terrific. Thanks for paying attention, everyone. So another really cool book, I don't have one of these here, but we realized that self-advocacy research, first of all, it's old. Second of all, they only did self-advocacy with kids with disabilities. But self-advocacy is important for everyone. I did see that somebody did some research on self-advocacy, but they weren't at their poster, but I'm hoping to find them. Because our kids have to be able to self-advocate if they're going to get what they want in the community related to physical education, sports, health. And so this whole book is on self-advocacy through health and physical education. And that's available through Jones and Bartlett is the publishing company. But we also, like I said, we have one specific to kids with visual impairment and deafblindness called the Self-Advocacy Playbook on our website for Camp Abilities. So you heard me talk about Camp Abilities. It's a sports camp for kids with visual impairment. We have 20 camps in the US, and Canada now has 2 Camp Abilities, one in Vancouver and one in Ontario. And people always are asking me, Lauren, like, what made you think of Camp Abilities? It's a really long story. It's not just one thing that made me think of Camp Abilities. So I wrote a book about it, and it's a memoir, and this is through SUNY Press. And I just brought a few of these. If anybody's interested, I'll sign it. This one I can't give away because they make me buy them, but I get them for half price. So if anybody's interested in the Camp Abilities story, and it's everything from my time at Perkins to the Global Fulbright Scholarship and going to other countries and starting Camp Abilities, working with kids who are deafblind in a variety of different countries is very interesting. And I'll share that if anybody's interested in any of those books. Some cool resources. So again, we have videos, and these are some of the video links, and it's mostly what I just showed you. And then on that link, we also have all these different sports: track, cross country, swimming, basketball, soccer, wrestling, tennis, baseball and kickball, and volleyball. So, because what we did, we got a grant from the Lavelle Fund for the Blind, and what they did was they gave us money to make videos for every after-school sport. So if you have a child that goes out for that sport and the coach is like, oh, I don't know what to do with him, you give him the video. I had a swimming coach, emailed me, I have no idea what to do with her. And I said, look, watch this video, and if you still have questions, let me know. And she's like, oh, I'm all good. It's not as hard as I thought. You know, so a lot of these videos will kind of give them ideas, skill development ideas, and tactile teaching techniques. And it doesn't solve every question, but it answers a lot of the questions. So we had a lot of experts making these videos. And again, I just showed you where to get those outdoor adventure videos: paddleboarding, rock climbing, kayaking, fishing, biking, and hiking. Anybody love these sports, doing outdoor adventure? Yeah, that's fun. And then just about camp abilities. This was our camp, a picture of our camp from last year. Or maybe it was this. No, this was last year. And then this year we just had our camp just at the end of June. And again, we do sports all day, and we have kids with visual impairment, deafblindness, kids with multiple disabilities, and we have a great time with sports. And so many of the kids every day do things they never thought they could do. But the most important thing is now they take those sports and go out into the community. And this is what I want all you to do with all of these resources, is get these resources to parents and teachers. Let's show the kids their potential. Get them involved in biking or a running race or out hiking, and show people in the community what they can do. And I think too many times people just don't expect the people that we work with to have high levels of physical activity and sport, but they can if we teach them and give them the opportunities. This was our outdoor adventure day. We did all kinds of outdoor adventure: stand-up paddleboarding, cornhole. I love cornhole. Kayaking and hiking. And we just ran our international symposium in Italy. So we have an international symposium on physical activity and visual impairment and deafblindness. Our first one was in Scotland with, some of you know, John Ravenscroft with the Scottish Sensory Centre. We just had our last one in this summer in Italy, and in 2 years, I'll tell you where we're going to have it when I have it confirmed. But it is really cool because, you know, you go to a conference, if you love this area, it's not often that you have somebody talking about visual impairment or deafblindness and physical activity, sport, physical education. But this conference, every single presentation is about that. So we love having our conference. So if you're a parent of a child with charge between 3 and 12, this is another study that we're doing. It's a survey about the environment, your child's environment. You can download this one. And also we need parents for that home intervention study. Again, you do get money. So you could download this QR code if you're interested in that study. I don't see anybody downloading that one. And then again, our charge barrier study, still looking for some participants for that one. I actually have the questionnaires here if anybody is here, a parent of a child with charge syndrome between 10 and 18 years old. And this is my contact information. That's my email. We have campabilities.org, campabilitiesworld.com, and then our Institute on Movement Studies with IMSV is our brockport.edu/IMSV. So that's where you can contact and find out what we're doing there. So I think we have time for one question. They said this room was hard to ask questions, so they said I could use all my time, but we do have time for a question. Or if anybody wants to share an exciting story, I love stories. Anybody? Tell me your name. That's it. So the question is, how do you collaborate with your physical therapist? Is that the question? That's a great question. And sometimes, like if you're in the physical education side, I often see the PE teachers inviting them in to the class so that they can help with positioning. I know when I was at Perkins, I worked a lot with the PTs. They'd come in the pool, help us, show us positioning, show us communication strategies. But also, it's a great idea to go and watch what they're doing in physical therapy if you have time. But also, I don't know what your country, what you call an individual education plan, like the meeting, the multidisciplinary team meeting. I would definitely look at the goals and objectives that they have and make sure that you're aligning with them. But that's a great point, is the multidisciplinary team is key. And you really can't work in a silo when you're working on sports and physical activity. Everybody has to see what you're doing and how it applies to their needs. Does that help? Okay, great, thank you. Anders. Thank you so much. And I did not plant Anders there. I didn't tell him to say that. But my last departing thought is, if anybody is interested in camp abilities or you'd like to start one, I would love to help you start one where you live if you don't have one, because it is an amazing vehicle for kids with sensory impairments to experience sports, learn their potential, and take that home and show their community what they can do. So again, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you being here, and hope I connect with everybody during the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you so much, Lauren. I think you really demonstrated the importance of movement, physical activity, and sport in people that have different needs. I know for myself, I volunteered for 20 years for the International Blind Sports Association, refereeing different sports, and really it taught me that any movement or activity or sport can be adapted if you put the energy into it. So thank you so much. We have a little gift for you. Please accept this as a token of our appreciation for coming out. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. And I now encourage everyone to make your way to the next concurrent session. Thanks very much, Lauren.